Activision presents a smashing blast from the past. Developed by Vicarious Visions. It's Crash Bandicoot!
What is up, YouTube? I am your friendly neighborhood N-Man64, and I'm bringing you another playthrough of another game. Well, we began the Spyro trilogy not that long ago. We tackled Kirby Superstar, which had a crap ton of other things in it, like 3 games maybe, I don't know. So I figured, let's go tackle yet another trilogy. Which one? How about Crash Bandicoot? One of the primary Sony/PlayStation mascots of the 90s got his own trilogy back in action and remade and remastered for a whole new generation of people to enjoy. So why not, for the 40th project of our channel, do we not tackle Crash Bandicoot? Now, this game is made up of 3 different games. Crash Bandicoot 1, the original, released in 1996. Obviously drastically updated and remastered for a new generation. This is the one we will be playing this time around, but I give you warning, this is the worst of the 3. That might be a good thing, that might be a bad thing, depending on how you look at it. It's fairly difficult, but I think we can manage just fine. Next up is Crash Bandicoot 2, Cortex Strikes Back. This is my personal favorite version of Crash Bandicoot. More of a mixture between Crashes 1 and 3. It's a very good game. I personally enjoy this one better than any of the other ones, but obviously we can't just start with a 2, that would just be weird. And I've already ruined Kingdom Hearts by doing the games out of order, so I may as well not do them out of order this time. And then Crash Bandicoot Warped, which is number 3. Arguably the best of the Crash Bandicoot games by popular standards. And while I have played it and I do thoroughly enjoy it, I do like Crash 2 just a little bit more. But again, that's just my personal perspective. Now, all 3 of these games have their own unique little twists and turns to them. 3's has special brands of bullshit and time travel and all that. Crash Bandicoot 2 has its own things, and Crash Bandicoot 1 is where everything begins. So, without further ado, I say we get this thing started. We're going to overwrite the save data that we have, since I already have a 100% run of Crash Bandicoot 1 on here. We may as well set ourselves up this way.
We haven't determined the cause of past failures.
Moron! This Bandicoot will be my general, and he will lead my Cortex Commandos to world domination. This time, I shall reign triumphant. We are closer than ever before. Quickly, into the vortex.
Dr. Cortex, the vortex is not ready. We have no idea what it could do.
Failure again. Capture him!
Uh-oh.
Prepare the female Bandicoot.
So, for those of you who don't know what the hell just happened, that's a very good thing, because I don't either really that much. Apparently there's a mad scientist named Dr. Neo Cortex who is experimenting on Australian mammals in an attempt to take over the world by making an army of super-powered marsupials. That's just what he does, and that's just what he does. Now, Crash Bandicoot can move around with either the D-pad, the directional pad, or using the the control stick. Your own choice, however you do it. Press the X button to jump, and you can press the square button in this game to do a spin move. And that is how you can defeat these boxes. Break open the boxes and collect the things that we need to collect. Now, as you can see there was a total of 40 boxes that we have in this particular stage. Break them all open and we get a special prize. Not really. It's kind of a prize. But whatever. Now, Crash Bandicoot 1, there you go. There's a little bit of extra tidbits for things you may not know what to do. Crash Bandicoot 1, unlike 2 and 3, does not have, like, a bunch of unique moves to it. It's basically just a standard platformer that was supposed to compete with Mario and Sonic back in the day. That's not a bad thing, as in terms of just raw platforming, this is probably one of the best games out there. Now that little little mask guy that I had following me was called Aku Aku. Aku Aku is basically your health gauge, because in case you haven't noticed, there is no health meter, or there's no sparks, there's no health meter, or anything like that in this game. So, to put it bluntly, if you get hit once without Aku Aku on you, you die. Aku Aku can be trained up to 3 different levels. The first level is you get 1 hit extra. The second level is you get 2 additional hits before dying. And the third makes you invincible and able to plow through enemies. Obviously, I don't think I have to explain what checkpoints are at this point, but in case you're new, checkpoints are basically places you can come back to when you die. You can't beat all the enemies just by spinning, so you have to jump on some and then spin them later. It's one of the things that makes Crash Bandicoot unique. You don't just punch and kick enemies away. There's a strategy to beat every single opponent that you come up against, if you will. Now, all of the special moves that Crash is known for, like the dash boots and the super spin, tornado spin, the double jump, those aren't available until Crash 3, unfortunately. They made this game almost identical to the original Crash Bandicoot game, where you only had the spinning and jumping moves to work with. I personally think that was a good thing, but I don't know. As you can see there at the end, there's a bit of a box counter. Now, that box counter determines the completion percentage that you have for that particular level. When you manage to get all of the boxes broken in a stage, you can get a special gem. And the gems will help you later down the line, but at the moment, they're not particularly helpful. Now, you can just cross over that very easily if you want to solve that problem, but since you have to break all the boxes in order to get the gems, here's how you do it. Jump, 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 jump. And you only had to jump once for that. And just move the control stick or D-pad directional pad thing slightly forward each time, and you get all of the boxes. And there you go. A perfect run through level 1 of Crash Bandicoot. Trust me, we are not doing perfect. We're not going to 100% this game. 100%ing this game is a nightmare. And then 2 and 3 are also particularly tough, but this one is particularly bad because of how just awful some of the stages will get later on. Fortunately, they kind of wean you in as you proceed throughout the game. Now, one last thing I'd like to point out. Actually, you know what? I think I'll do that later. I think I'll do that in another episode. So let's tackle the next level. There are several other things you can collect besides gemstones. As you can see, you can collect these fruits, which are called Wumpa fruits, which are usually what will be inside said crates that are found along Insane Island. And here's the invincibility mode. If you collect 100 Wumpa fruits, you will get an extra life, just like if you collect 100 rings in Sonic, you get an extra life, and if you get 100 coins in Mario, you get an extra life. it's going to be important because there are going to be certain missions in this game that are particularly brutal on you. So, if I were you, I would stack up as many lives as you can. This is not an easy game. I enjoy the crap out of it, but it is not an easy game. Now, as you can see here, there's this little platform thing that's sort of invisible or like ghostly, so we can't really touch it right now. That requires a special gem to get up to another part of the level to break more boxes. It's sort of a replayability function that Crash Bandicoot is very famous for. So, unfortunately, no matter what happens, since you very likely... Actually, there's no way you could possibly have the gem that's needed to collect the 100% for this level. There is no way you can 100% this level on your first time through. So, if you're good at Crash Bandicoot, you really shouldn't have to... Ow. That wasn't smart. I thought I'd be able to get it, but apparently not. Step on any more TNT crates, which, in case you couldn't tell, are filled with dynamite. And if you spin into them without Aku Aku, it's an instant death. Now, as you can see, we've collected these 3 tokens, which are basically called Torna tokens. That is the character of Torna Bandicoot, who in the original Crash game was Crash Bandicoot's girlfriend, and in this one, it's not really truly understood if she is directly his girlfriend or not. But it basically brings you to a bonus area where you can break more boxes and get more 1-ups if needed. Unfortunately, as you can see, we're going to be ending this level with about 38 or 39 boxes broken. And if you want to go back to a level, we'll have a few more than that. So maybe just like 41, 42. Around those lines. Unfortunately, what's going to happen is, as you can see, that's not going to be changing anytime soon. So, we're going to have to come back and do this if we wanted to do 100% this game. I don't want to, because I don't want to ruin the small bit of joy I have left in this world. And I must point this out. If you do that, and if you want to go back and 100% each stage, you have to go back and get all of the boxes all over again. This isn't one of those, the boxes stay out until you find the remaining 3. No, no, no. If you want to beat the game, you got to go back and do all the boxes all over again. Crash Bandicoot is a game that rewards patient players and punishes those who are not so patient. It's very different from Mario, which I would say is very easy to get into for people who've never really played platformers before. This is probably on the next tier above that. I'd say this is probably a bit harder to get into than, say, a Spyro or a Mario game. So I wouldn't recommend a newbie to platformer start with Crash Bandicoot. Even though it was one of the first platforming games I ever played, the second one. I have talked about it in my Spyro Let's Play, and I will bring it up again at some point, because it's just one of those weird things about me and my world and the things I do. But when I was a kid, I was a PlayStation kid, as many of you know. I didn't really get into super into Nintendo consoles until I was about 11 or 12 when I got my GameCube. But I had Spyro 1 and 3 on my for my PlayStation, or for our family PlayStation, and we had Crash Bandicoot 2. We did not have Crash Bandicoot 1 or 3, and we did not have Spyro 2. And it's weird because that's just the weird thing about me and trilogies. Like, even with Star Wars, I saw the first Star Wars and Return of the Jedi before I saw Empire Strikes Back. Because my parents used to always say, oh, that was the bad one. But I'm like, no, it's the good one. So I am thankful that these games did get rebooted, or remastered, if you will. So for a guy like me who only had access to one Crash Bandicoot game and 2 Spyro games, at least the original 3, that I'd have access to these wonderful ones now. TNT boxes are actually quite nice in the fact that they won't blow up on you immediately unless you smack into them. Not like nitro boxes, which are introduced in Crash 2, but since they're not in this game, we're not going to worry about that right now. And we got a few more 1-ups, which are going to be important, because like I said, Crash Bandicoot is nice in that it eases you into things. Once you get to like the 4th or 5th, once you get past the first boss, this game becomes evil. Like, excruciatingly evil. And case in point, like I said, 2 levels in a row where we don't get 100%. But since I'm not aiming for 100%, it's not the end of the world if we miss anything. Alright, so 15 minutes in, I think that's good enough of a place to call it quits. So thank you guys for joining me on this first episode of Crash Bandicoot. I am your friendly neighborhood M-Man64. Join me next time where we tackle the next portion of Crash Bandicoot. God, that 100% run was brutal. And join me next time when we take on the next portion of the Crash Bandicoot Challenge as we take on boulders. That doesn't sound good at all. Until we meet again, my lovelies, a sayonara.